So originally from Kansas, joined the Army in 1998, deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I was wounded by an IED on August 20th of 2003 in southern Baghdad. Didn't think a whole lot about it. I had some superficial injuries to my hands. I had a massive headache, but rightfully so. The bomb exploded within feet of where I was sitting. I was in a non-armored vehicle, and didn't even have a door on the vehicle, and the blast came in the vehicle, and lifted me up and slammed me into the what we call a traversing unit that was behind me, which is where the head injury piece came in. My gunner was wounded, so we turned around and went to the brigade headquarters, which is where the aid station was, and I was so focused on trying to help him that I didn't even realize that I was injured, and definitely had no idea to what extent that I was injured. So they treated the superficial wounds, and that was pretty much it. Went back to work, kind of got a couple hours off that night, and then the next day we were back at it again, patrolling the streets of Baghdad. So fast forward a few years. So I was wounded in 2003. In 2007, I started having some really bad episodes. I didn't know what was going on. Couldn't concentrate. I couldn't remember. And quite frankly, for lack of better words, I started freaking out being around even similar situations and familiar people. I couldn't handle the pressure of being around crowds. And it was to the point where I put myself in the hospital because I thought I'd had a heart attack, and the doctors couldn't figure it out, and it was, all of their scans showed that I was healthy and that there was nothing wrong with me. And it literally took me going online and looking up my symptoms to even have a general idea of what was going on. And so I realized that there was an issue. I started looking it up, but before that, once I started having issues, and before the doctors were able to diagnose what was going on, I had insomnia real bad. I had migraines really bad. I was having panic attacks and anxiety attacks. And so my solution for it, the only thing I could do that I knew that made sense was turn to alcohol. And I went from someone who liked to enjoy alcohol and have a drink every now and then to I was drinking over a fifth of whiskey a night. And it dulled the pain. It gave me that clarity because it shut out all the outside noises and all the things that were going on. And I had insomnia, so I would drink until I got drunk, and I would go to sleep, and I actually would stay in my bed, and I would sleep, and I would get up in the morning and go do PT, and it worked for me. I was a functional alcoholic, and I didn't see a big problem with it because I was still showing up to work. I wasn't beating my wife. I wasn't running around on my wife. I wasn't hanging out in the local bars until 2 o'clock in the morning. I just drank in my home. But that's what I did. That's how I treated it. There was a recollection that I realized that I was going down the wrong path when I went home one day from work, and my youngest child, saw that I didn't have a drink in my hand, so he went and made me a whiskey and Coke at the age of probably 6 or 7 because he knew that's what I did. So after that, I kind of a revelation that maybe I was going down the wrong path and I needed to back things off a little bit. So I did that. And then the doctors started getting involved, and we started kind of figuring things out and realized that a lot of my problems came from something greater, and they were starting to get connected back to to my injuries from Iraq from 2003. So at this point in time, I've already deployed 2 more times since I was wounded. Fast forward to 2014, I was never able to see an actual TBI specialist because they didn't have them. It wasn't a thing in the Army when I got hurt. TBI wasn't something that was really tracked or even a known injury. They knew it existed, but it wasn't something that they checked for. And they definitely did not know how to treat it. So when TBI clinics became a thing, I was always in the wrong post. I wasn't at the same place as a TBI clinic, and when I was leaving. And so when I moved in 2014, I went down to Fort Bliss, and when I in-processed, they had a TBI clinic there. And so I literally, before I've even signed into post and I'm assigned to that unit, I stopped in and said, hey, how do I get seen? And so I got an appointment scheduled just by walking in. And so the doctor that I spoke to basically told me that he couldn't fix me, that there is no fixing what I had, but he could treat the symptoms. That was huge, because up until that point, I was just broke. So the medical side started picking up, and the doctors actually started helping, and was able to get some prescriptions for some stuff, and get rid of some of those burdens that I had. So, and I deployed a few more times since then, and then I recently retired a few years ago, and after being around the military and being with those service members is a bond like you can't explain unless you were a service member, and I didn't realize how much it was until I left. I didn't leave from Fort Bliss and retire around Fort Bliss. I didn't leave from the 82nd Airborne Division and retire around Fayetteville, North Carolina, where there's a bunch of soldiers. I was in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. And so when I walked away, I really walked away, and I didn't have that camaraderie. And so, talking with the few friends that I do have that have similar experiences, I've been turned on to veteran programs and veteran retreats, if you will. And for me, I realized how much I've missed being around service members, and how much I've missed that camaraderie until the first trip that I went on. When I realized that I wasn't in this by myself as a service member. I have a wife and kids that have been there for me, and I couldn't be where I'm at today without them. The service member side of it, that's the camaraderie that I've grown to know and love and hate equally. But when it was gone, it was gone. So where I'm at in my life right now, the thing that has kind of started to help, as painful as it is being around other veterans. And as I'm able to share my story, it's not easy. It's not something that I'm comfortable doing. But the more that I do it, the deeper that I go, the more that comes out. And who's to say? I don't know if it's for me that I'm saying it, or if it's for another veteran that is hearing my story and realizing that I'm a little farther along in the process than what they are. So if that prevents them from going deeper the wrong direction, that's worth it to me. So my pain of sharing, my uncomfortableness of sharing, if that leads to somebody being able to address their demons even a fraction of a %, then I'm good with that. for me, what I would say is reach out to a veteran service organization or your friends, or you can turn to God and do it in a constructive way, not a deconstructive way. You have to be able to give yourself to God, but you have to do it in a way that with somebody that you trust. In my experience, I have not been able to have a peaceful relationship with God on my own without help. I've tried it years and years and years and years and years down the road and was always unsuccessful until I found people that were like-minded and had a true testimony of God, that were able to identify what I was trying to do and to help me in the process. Am I there? Absolutely not. Do I have a long way to go? Absolutely. Am I stubborn? Yes. It is what it is. Like, this is where I'm at in my life. But those are the ways that you can start. That's speaking with your doctors, speaking with the religious, whether it's clergy, personnel, or friends that have a good testimony with the Lord. Veteran organizations where you can finally realize that it's not you're not going through it by yourself. A lot of us have these demons, and they're scary, and it's hard to address. It's hard to put aside our pride and put aside all the stigmatisms that we've ever heard, to reach out for help, whether it's spiritual help or whether it's the help from the doctors or the VA or whoever. Sometimes just talking about it is enough to get your mind out of the dark place. It's not a good place to be, and there's a reason why we have so many veteran suicides. Is that grip? Those demons they're real.